Well, first of all, I hate following the mayor. She's an excellent speaker. And I will tell you, she's a volunteer. She does not get paid for her position, and neither do the council members. So they're true volunteers that volunteer to lead our community and give our community a vision of where we want it to be. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because I know you have to be here. I know you did something that forced you to be here. I know you don't have to listen, but I would urge you to open up your mind, open up your heart, and listen to a few of the words that I have to say to you, because I took time out of my schedule because the mayor asked me to come. I didn't know what it was about. I read what it was about. I believe in what this is about. So I'm here because I care about your future and where you're going to end up 5 years from now, where you're going to end up 10 years from now. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about what 5 years from now looks like for you? How old are you? So you'll be 19 in 5 years. Have you thought where you're going to be at 19? How old are you? 12? Have you thought about where you're going to be when you're 22? Have you thought about what you want to do, what you want to be, who you want to become? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about, hey, I need to be on time. Hey, I need to sit up straight. Hey, I need to sit in the front row. Hey, I need to listen. Have you thought about those things? Now, I'm telling you this because I'm going to have to give you what I've done or where I'm from so that you'll listen. Because otherwise, I'm just a talking head. I'm an adult who thinks he knows everything. I'll tell you, adults do not know everything. We make mistakes all the time. We're you just grown up. We think just like you do. We were you at one point. So I grew up in the east side of Lubbock, Texas. I went to the worst elementary school statistically in Lubbock, Texas. But yet I won the spelling bee whenever I was in grade school, when I was in elementary school, because my mom forced me to get straight A's or I couldn't play sports. So I loved football, basketball, baseball, and all my friends happened to be black. And I happened to think I was as good as they were. And I happened to be as good as they were. I ended up getting a football scholarship because of being good at football. I ended up going into the military. And I'm a retired colonel. I'm a lieutenant colonel, retired lieutenant colonel. I've been all over the world. I've been deployed 2 long deployments, one 6 months, one 10 months. And then I did 14 micro deployments. So I know how to lead men, some women that were in the unit, but there's mostly men. And I know how to lead in stressful situations. I know how to lead when everyone else is losing their mind because they're getting shot at or something is happening that they're not used to and it's very tense. And you have to do something like overnight. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like when you're the only one in charge. I also know what it feels like to have a mom and a dad who had a vision for us. And that's the main message I want to share with you. When I asked you, what are you going to do 5 years from now? Do you have a plan? 10 years from now, do you have a plan? My mom, my dad had a vision for us. They wanted us to finish school. They wanted us to go to school. I have cousins who are in jail. I have cousins who are dead. I have friends. I have Rodney Jackson, who I grew up with. He's dead at 29, killed by a 19-year-old in Lubbock, Texas, in a bar. I have friends who later became pimps, dead or in prison. The thing about prison, I'm a pretty big guy, right? And some of you might think you're tough, but there's always somebody tougher in prison. Always. Always. Doesn't matter how big you are, doesn't matter what you think you know about fights or things like that. There's always somebody bigger in prison. So you're here because you made a mistake, right? Your mom and dad, I bet you they have a vision for you. I bet you they want great things for you. I bet they've told you that. And as the mayor said, if they haven't told you that, you got people like Mr. Borofsky, you got people like the mayor, you got people like myself, who, if you start doing the right things, have good habits, you could go be an intern at the city. You could go be a firefighter. You know how much firefighters make? And they don't have to have a degree. You know how much they make? The mayor and I know this very well because we've been very deeply entrenched on this topic. They make $60,000 a year. Is that pretty good money? At 18 years old, 19 years old to make that kind of money? That's not bad, is it? And you work 2 days and then you're off 4 days. How's that sound? And then for those of you that said, no, college isn't for me, well, you could be an electrician. You could be a plumber. You know how much electricians and plumbers make? Do you know how much they make? Over $100,000 a year. So if you're good with your hands, you can work with your hands. If you're smart, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer. So that vision that my mom had for us, I had that for my sons. And they had to grow up with this. They had to hear this every day. So when they were old enough to understand what school was about, 3 and 4 years old, I would tell them, you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. That's it. Those are your choices. So I have a 21-year-old that has his master's degree in business. He has an MBA, and he's 21. And I have another one who's 22 that's about to finish his master's in business administration. And that's because I had a vision for them, just like my mom had a vision for us. So when I fulfilled my mom's vision, my dad's vision, and all of us in our family got a degree, even though we grew up in the worst part of town. I went to the worst junior high, which was Alderson Junior High. But I didn't let those surroundings affect what I ended up becoming. I didn't know anything about being a city manager. I know that if I had not played football, I would not have known about it. There was a city secretary who was married to my coach in high school. Every time she saw me, she'd say, "You'd make a great city manager." And I just smiled and waved. Like the penguins in Madagascar, just smile and wave. Because I had no idea what that was. Then I went off to college, played football, then I hurt my knee. I went to a combine, flunked the NFL physical, and so I got into the military. And when I got deployed, I was on active duty. Then when I got out of active duty, because I was getting deployed so much, my wife wanted me to get out, so I got in the reserves. But when I got out, that same lady said, you need to come, apply at the city. So I had a job with the bank, being a financial analyst, but I listened to her and went and applied at the city. And I've been doing that ever since. So I was one of the youngest people at the city to move up so fast at the city of Lubbock. I was an assistant city manager in my late 20s. I was a deputy city manager when I was 31. And I was the only one that looked like me on the second floor there in Lubbock, Texas. So then I was the interim city manager. So I was there 13 years. I went from there, went to Harlingen, was the city manager of Harlingen, Texas, because that's where my dad grew up. And I then went to Dallas. I was a deputy city manager. Then I was in Irving, Texas for 8 years, the city manager there. Then was the city manager in El Paso for 9 years, and now I've been a city manager here for a year. Now, it hasn't been easy. I didn't know the business. I didn't have a mom and dad who were educated. They told me about being a city manager, about all the vile parts of that, the politics piece, how people come at you, just like the mayor said online. And to me, quite frankly, people that do that to you, they're just cowards. If someone has something to say to you, they should be man enough or woman enough to just be polite enough to just look you in the face and tell you they have a problem with you. People that hide behind keyboards, they're just cowards. But it's not any easier when you get into real life and what you're dealing with now. It's just more on a bigger stage. You deal with the same issues. That's the reason you have to have a vision, because like my mom and dad, whenever they had this vision for us, it wasn't easy. As we were growing up, and I was telling you about the story about getting straight A's in the summer, we used to work in the fields and chop weeds for school clothing. So that taught us a lesson, that taught us a lesson that we needed to work for our clothes, for food, and things of that nature, and that it wasn't going to be easy to fulfill their vision of getting an education. So I want you to know that being someone who grew up like that, who had a lot of challenges, who knows how it is to be hungry, who ran out of food in the summertime on Wednesday because you didn't have food like you did during the school year where you ate breakfast and lunch at school. So I remember being hungry on Wednesday until my dad got paid at Eagle Pitcher where he worked on Friday. Now my dad was a great example. He had 3 jobs his whole life. He worked his tail off for our family. So I don't know if you have that example at home or not, but you could be that example. You can be the one that starts that vision. My mom and dad had that vision. My mom grew up working the fields. My dad did as well. And my mom wasn't allowed to go to school. But she broke the cycle and she had a vision. And she fulfilled that vision. So you need to have a vision for yourself. If no one else has a vision for you, you need to have a vision for yourself. You need to step up. You need to be the one that breaks the cycle. And you might be thinking, I just screwed up one time. Or this might be the second time that you got in trouble. Yeah, but that's one time turns into a second. That second turns into a third. That's what you call bad habits. And bad habits get you nowhere. And good habits get you to places you've never been before. But good habits are repeating it over and over, especially when no one's watching. Your standards for yourself should be higher than anyone else's. When I interviewed with the mayor and the council, I had to interview with all 7 of them. Whenever we were talking about, different questions, and I told them, I said, I have high standards for myself, higher than anyone else will have for me, because that's how I was raised by my parents. So you need to do that for yourself. You need to love yourself that much, because you can do whatever you set your mind to, so long as you have a vision for where you want to get to. Okay, I'm a good example of that. I'm no different than you. My mom and dad, 2nd and 3rd grade, that was their education. All my relatives, they didn't finish even high school. I know that sounds crazy in today's environment, today's world, but they didn't finish high school. They went to prison. Or they're working manual labor jobs that are hard jobs. Whenever I've been a city manager, I've gone out, I'm older now, but I've gone out and worked with my employees. I remember picking trash in Irving, and they did it the old-fashioned way. They picked it. There's they lived bags out in front yard, and you threw the trash into the dump truck. That's hard. I remember that evening stinking like I've never stunk before. And my wife saying, put all your clothes over there. But I've never slept as good those nights. And it reminded me whenever I was here and we were going through a strategic planning session, and the mayor said that she wanted us, her mantra was, we wanted to work so hard for Midland, we were going to go home tired every night. So she has a vision for Midland. And as followers of that vision, we need to emulate that. And that's what we're doing. No different than what we did for my mom and for my dad, and having that vision and emulating that and working hard every day to get there. It's like our mayor saying we're going to go to bed tired every evening. So that's what I've committed to do. That's what I've had staff do. And there's a change. Our staff has changed. Our services have changed. We've gotten better. So that same vision that you have for yourself, when you go get a job, you can take that to wherever you go and you can lead others. In El Paso, that's the largest city I've managed, had 7,000 people and over a $2 billion with a B, $2 billion budget. Here, it's under 500 million, it's 450 million, and like over 1,000 people, like the mayor said. You can do that too. If you hear nothing today other than, whatever sticks to your head or sticks in your mind, because I know your young kids, you get told what to do all the time by adults, but if you hear nothing else, hear that having a vision is important, good habits are important, and if you do those 2 things, you can do anything you set your mind to. Okay? So we care about you. This isn't going to end here. I meant what I said. If any of you are serious about wanting to do an internship and you want to get on the right path, we'll open that up for you. We have internships that we do annually, and we do it throughout the year. There's some kids that do half a day at school, and we're doing that at the city of Midland. Again, if you want to be a firefighter, a police officer, that starting pay, like what I told you, $60,000 for firefighters, and I think it's $65,000 for police officers. And you don't have to have a degree. So you can start that, and you can continue your education, though. We encourage that, and we pay for your education. So that's another thing that I don't know if you knew about. So you can do a lot of different positions at the city of Midland. As I mentioned, you could be a nurse. You could do a lot of different things. You could be an engineer. So there's a lot of options and a lot of opportunities for you right here in your own backyard. All right. So I know you guys are probably eager to ask questions, aren't you? Because you don't want to go home. You're bored at home, right? You want to just talk to us all evening. Yeah, it's a tough crowd. Yeah. Any questions for me? Carl, did I touch on what?
I think so, man. I actually was encouraged and heard a bunch, so I'm hoping, the purpose of this is, even though nobody's speaking up or, that they heard something, I definitely heard a lot. And, love that story, man. Love that story.
Well, I go out and I've spoken to bigger groups, and I've been asked to do speaking engagements. And the biggest thing that I ask people to do, and I know you're being forced to be here, but what I started out with in the future, when you go to training sessions, or even when you go to school, open up your mind, open up your heart. I mean, because if you go in with an attitude, you know, this person's not, I'm not going to learn anything from this person, then you're probably not going to learn anything from that person. You know, we don't know everything. I already said that as adults, but neither do you. And so the more knowledge you have, the more power you have. You all want to have power, don't you? I know you do. I can see it in your eyes. You want power, you want money, right? You want nice cars? Yeah? Some of you like nice dogs, you like nice clothes, you want to eat, right? You got to get your head on straight, all right? So I hope what we said resonated with you. Hope it stuck with some of you. If it didn't, you know, we'll try it again next time, but I hope some of it stuck. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right, thank you.